Dios bendiga, amado pueblo del Señor, una vez más tu hermano en Cristo, pastor y avivangelista, Edwin Molina, el cual por estos medios se acerca a ustedes para traerle información de lo que está sucediendo en nuestro mundo actual, en todas partes del mundo. Amén, vamos a estar viendo videos de cosas que posiblemente no veamos en las noticias locales y que en la mayoría de los casos se ignora aún en las noticias internacionales. Pero sí, estos son en mayoría videos de personas, amén, con sus celulares tomando y viendo o grabando las cosas que están sucediendo, tanto como tormentas, huracanes, taifunes, amén, ciclones, vaguadas, derrumbe de tierra, animales muriendo por miles, inundaciones terribles que están sucediendo, volcanes, de todo tipo de información. Quiero traer estos videos, amén, y presentárselo para que veamos en el tiempo que estamos viviendo y a veces ni de cuenta nos estamos dando porque no le estamos prestando la atención. Y de acuerdo a lo que dijo el maestro a sus discípulos en el capítulo 13 del Evangelio según San Marcos, amén, y en el versículo 33, él dijo estas palabras: mirad, velad y orad, porque no sabéis cuándo será el tiempo. Mirad, velad y orad. Tres cosas que debemos de estar haciendo nosotros, el pueblo de Dios, los cristianos, amén, es mirando, observando, viendo, velando las cosas que están sucediendo en el mundo, porque son señales, amén, de que Cristo viene pronto por su iglesia y que se están cumpliendo tantas y tantas profecías que ya de años se ha venido hablando que han de suceder. Así que mire estos videos, observe todas estas cosas y luego comentaré de la noticia. Dios te bendiga, míralo y regresaremos después.
Vacationers and volunteers alike joined on a New Zealand beach Sunday in an effort to save dozens of whales that ended up stranded over the weekend.
We've been here probably about 3.5, 4 hours. We've just been listening to instructions and trying to keep them as wet as possible and comfortable.
About 125 whales died on the beach, but the rescuers were able to coax 43 others out to sea. Conservation officials are not sure why the pilot whales ended up on the beach. They think one of the whales may have been sick and their sonar led them into shallow water.
Well, thousands of fish are dead at the mouth of a shipping channel, as well as a dead whale that was reported in Venice today. The species include crabs, stingrays, eel, drum, speckled trout, and redfish. The video you're about to see is not a gravel road. Those are the dead fish. Plaquemines Parish President Billy Nungesser sent these pictures. He says that there is no testing going on to determine if the fish are dead from the oil spill, although the northern Gulf has suffered a persistent dead zone of low oxygen, blamed on nutrient-rich runoff from the Mississippi River. Nungesser says that this is different because usually the kills happen to only 1 or 2 species of fish.
Seashells in millions are coming on the beaches of Pakistan, Karachi, and usually these creatures live right underneath the ocean, on the ocean floor. And what I don't understand is why these creatures are all of a sudden appearing here on Karachi beach. These seashells are coming every day on the ocean, like on the beach here, and there are, as you can see here, millions, and there are piles of seashells flying around here.
Piles of the small silvery fish cover much of the shoreline just east of Jones Park, from 15th Avenue to Moses Pier. While many lie baking in the late morning sun, others are pushed ashore by the gentle surf. It might make sense to blame the oil spill for the fish kill, or at least consider oil or dispersants in the water for the death of these pogies. But Harrison County's Sand Beach director isn't so sure.
Probably red tide. It's possible it could be something oil related. It's hard to say right now, but DMR is going to be sending personnel out here.
Once you figured out what it was, the smell hit you.
Garbage. It's fish, so it's going to smell really bad.
All of this greeted Christine Cummings on her Wednesday morning beach walk.
And it looked like a foam, actually. It was out there. And a little further down, we saw a couple of fish. Like, oh, that's a shame. It's a couple of... Then we realized, no, it's all fish.
All along Highs Beach on the bay side of Middle Township, Cape May County, New Jersey, tens of thousands of what residents say are small bunker, a bait-type fish, all dead.
It's scary because we were swimming in this all... So far, we've been here since last Friday, and it's been wonderful, nice and clear.
As you head south toward Villas, New Jersey, the massive fish kill drops down to 3 to 4 feet wide. And what should have been a feeding frenzy for seagulls, they won't touch.
I haven't seen anything like this. I'm concerned about what's killing the fish.
Another small life lost on the vast Kazakh grasslands. Officials estimate that in the last 2 weeks as many as 12,000 Saiga antelope have died.
No one can understand what's happened because we see dead animals concentrated in a certain area.
Samples taken from the dead animals suggest that a lung infection may be to blame. The government is baffled.
This phenomena took place not only in the area where mass death of Saiga antelope took place, it also happened in another district some time ago where strange white fog was seen.
Massive fish and bird kills in Arkansas. Up to 5,000 blackbirds just fell from the sky in the town of Beebe. This happened just before midnight on New Year's Eve. And then tonight, we're learning that some 100,000 fish have washed up on the shores of the Arkansas River, which is about 125 miles from where the birds fell. And joining us now by phone from Little Rock is Keith Stevens. He's the spokesman for the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. Keith, Jackie Jarris also here with us. What is going on here? These are two very unusual circumstances.
Pretty strange things going on here in Arkansas. Unusual events that we don't often see. We do have fish die-offs from time to time. Obviously, this is a pretty large one, so it's got our attention. The birds, that's really unusual. We've had birds that have fallen out of the sky before, but not in this number.
2011.
Good evening, I'm Cynthia McFadden. We begin tonight with an environmental mystery. Hundreds of turtle doves turned up dead in the parks and streets of a town in northern Italy today. And scientists don't know what killed them. Maybe not news that would normally cross the globe, except that this is at least the 6th bizarre incident of its kind in the first week of the new year. And that's not to mention all the dead crabs and fish. So what's going on?
As many as 100 dead birds have fallen from the sky in Sweden, in the latest of similarly bizarre fatalities. Residents of Fulköping found the bodies of the jackdaws on Wednesday. Investigators believe cold weather, difficulties finding food, or possible shock could be behind their deaths. The discovery in central Sweden follows similar incidents in the United States. A Kentucky woman also found dozens of dead blackbirds in her back garden. Experts have dismissed a link between the incidents as highly unlikely.
107 pilot whales have died after becoming beached on a remote island off the south of New Zealand. Authorities were alerted when a pair of hikers discovered the whales, and about half were still alive at the time but were euthanized to ease their suffering. Time constraints and an approaching storm made it unfeasible to rescue the creatures.
Tons of fish found dead in Philippines. Over 800 metric tons of milkfish and tilapia on fish farms have been discovered suddenly perished in the waters of 5 towns across Batangas province. Officials have banned the sale of the dead rotting fish, which are being cleared from the lakes and buried by the truckloads. Investigation by the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR, reveals that the fish suffocated from lack of oxygen brought on by climate change-related extremes of a scorching summer, followed by a sudden drop in temperatures at the onset of the rainy season.
Fish farmers in southeast China are reeling after millions of fish suddenly died over several days last week. Chinese media estimates 8 to 9 million farm-bred grass carp died along a section of the Ming River in Fujian province. The fish started dying on August 27th, first in Huangtian Town in Gutian County, then downstream in Shuikou Town. Fujian's fishery authorities said on Tuesday that low oxygen levels in the water caused by recent torrential rain was to blame. But one farmer told the Shanghai Daily that even as they pumped oxygen into the water, fish kept dying in large numbers. Some suspect pollution from nearby industrial waste is the real culprit.
New tonight, a mysterious traffic tie-up just before the afternoon rush hour, and it was all because of birds. This is really weird. Hundreds of birds literally just dropped from the sky and then landed on I-95, bringing traffic there to a crawl.
Now, this happened on the northbound lanes in Laurel, and now the quest is underway to determine just what caused the mass kill-off of these birds.
You know, in Peru, environmentalists have a real mystery on their hands. Nearly 900 dolphins have turned up on a stretch of beach on the northern coast. Scientists have been testing the dolphins and trying to figure out exactly what happened. But these deaths are just the latest in a worldwide trend. In February, 179 dolphins washed ashore in Cape Cod. Then in early March, amateur video taken on a beach in Rio de Janeiro showed more than 30 dolphins on the shore there.
More than 800 dolphins, now more than 500 pelicans are washing up dead on the coast of Peru from Punta Negra to San Jose. It's a mystery as to why. Marine conservationist Hardy Jones recently visited this area in Peru, and he is the executive director of Blue Voice, an ocean conservation organization that protects whales and dolphins. I spoke earlier with Hardy Jones about the situation.
The pelican number is now up to 1,200. That's my latest report from Peru. And there are a variety of reasons why these mass mortality events take place. None has been defined for this particular event. But the important thing to know to get the context of this is that while this event in Peru is absolutely catastrophic, and for someone like myself who loves dolphins, it's heartbreaking, it is not unique. There are so-called mass mortality events that are taking place right now in the Gulf of Mexico in the United States waters. There have been 6,000 striped dolphins that died in Spain on 2 occasions in the early 2000s. There are dolphins dying off of Cape Cod right now. And I could give you a longer list than that, but the point is that these mass mortality events are increasing both in frequency and in virulence.
Hundreds of squid wash up on a Santa Cruz County beach. It is a mass stranding, but why it's happening remains a mystery.
It's a marine mystery. Beachcombers say these squid began washing up near Aptos on Sunday.
Oh man, there's probably thousands, you know? There's a lot of them all up and down.
This isn't the first stranding. Researchers recorded smaller strandings over the past 2 months from Santa Cruz to Pacific Grove. Now they'll be examining the contents of their stomachs to see if they died from natural or unnatural causes.
A record number of Michigan deer are dead, victims of the viral disease EHD.
24-hour News 8's Steve Kelso is here with new numbers from the DNR now. Steve?
Yeah, you know, the agency says that they have reported more than 11,000 dead deer, but right now that may just be the tip of the iceberg. Back in September, the DNR told me they believe there were about 3,000 dead deer in the state and that the outbreak of epizootic hemorrhagic disease was just about over. Take a look at this map now. Look at the numbers of reported dead deer in just these counties. If you hunt these areas, you will see less deer this year.
Dead fish are washing up along the Lake Erie shoreline from a natural phenomenon.
Elizabeth Diarra talked to experts today about this fish kill. She joins us now live at Horseshoe Pond at Presque Isle. Elizabeth, what are they telling you about the amount of dead fish? It's overwhelming, isn't it?
Sean, that's right. It's pretty unbelievable to be down here and to see all these dead fish. It's the worst fish die-off experts say we've seen in decades.
This die-off started under the ice cover of Presque Isle Bay. When the ice melted, I think that's when the public first started noticing the dead fish. And as you can see, they've really accumulated and piled up along the shoreline, and this is the end product.
Grazio says the gizzard shad are not tolerant to cold temperatures, and they died as a result of natural temperature stress because they are a more southern fish.
A discovery off the coast of Chile that has baffled authorities. Thousands of langoustines washed up in central Concepcion province. Beaches have been covered red as the Dublin Bay prawns were found. Investigators are trying to find out what has killed so many crustaceans in this case. It's too early to say whether it is natural death or an environmental crime, but police are not ruling out anything. Officers are due to go out into Coronel Bay to work out the sea temperature, electric conductivity, and most importantly, levels of oxygen. In recent years, a number of dead sea creatures have washed up on South America's Pacific coasts. Environmental experts say some possible explanations could be viruses, offshore oil exploration, and poisoned food sources.
All right, now to a mystery that has rocked the world of honeybees. Millions of bees simply dying or just disappearing, leaving no empty hives, no honey.
And it's a trend that experts say is getting worse and could mean shortages of honey and lots of other popular foods that we eat. Here's ABC's Devin Dwyer.
For 63 years, Charles Smith's hives have been buzzing with millions of bees.
They do sting sometimes. It's hard work, but you gotta love it.
A booming business renting out bees to pollinate fields of blueberries and apples. But then last winter, many of his swarms suddenly went silent. The bees gone without a trace.
We lost almost 50% up in this area. The bees were all just gone. I mean, it's like the bee can't find his way back home.
It's a mystery that's puzzled beekeepers everywhere, even spurring talk of a bee-pocalypse. A stunning 1 in 3 U.S. bee colonies disappeared last winter with no clear explanation of why.
Animals are mysteriously dying left and right in China, and no one knows why. This time it's 289 pigs and 89 dogs in Luoyang City in western Henan province. They reportedly all died suddenly on Monday for no known reason. According to this local media report, tests have ruled out that the animals died because of bird flu. The H7N9 strain has killed 16 people out of 77 reported human cases. But whatever killed the pigs and dogs in Dongtun village remains a mystery. One local also said that dogs that weren't killed are dying. They suspect a gas leak from a nearby chemical plant killed them. Locals have been complaining that a bad smell in the air had gotten especially bad. The mysterious animal deaths follow close on the heels of the sudden appearance of 16,000 pig carcasses in a major Shanghai river, over 1,000 birds and ducks turning up dead throughout China, and a quarter of a ton of dead fish washing up also in Shanghai.
Biologists are trying to unravel a mystery in northeastern New Mexico. More than 100 elk found dead on a ranch about 20 miles north of Las Vegas. The news comes as a shock to game and fish investigators and to hunters just days away from hunting season. News 13's Tina Jensen has the story.
Sky News 13 flying over a gruesome discovery on the sprawling 75,000-acre Buena Vista Ranch near Mora. A massive die-off of more than 100 elk within 1 square mile. The elk weren't shot, so Game and Fish is investigating just what caused the deaths, which seemed to happen overnight. Their top suspicion? Something called epizootic hemorrhagic disease, or EHD. The often fatal disease is caused by insect bites.
It's a very sad moment for us, but I think for the animals, the best is to put them off their misery.
We sent 2 of our most experienced staff out there to make an assessment of whether we believed a reef float was possible, but unfortunately, considering where they were on the beach and the weather conditions today, we just didn't believe that reef floating was a viable option.
At least 16 people are receiving antiviral treatment after coming into close contact with bats affected by the weekend heatwave in southern Queensland. Up to 100,000 flying foxes may have died during the extreme weather. Josh Bavis reports it's causing a problem for residents and councils.
In Boona, the stench of rotting carcasses hangs in the air.
I couldn't describe a smell that bad, so continuously.
Like death. That's what it smells like. It's bad.
Council teams have so far cleaned up about 2,500 dead bats here and expect to collect more. When the heatwave peaked on the weekend, thousands of bats fell from the sky.
We were all sitting around having lunch and it flew into the tree next to the back deck and took its last breath and screamed and fell on the deck in front of everybody.
It wasn't an isolated case. The RSPCA says up to 100,000 flying foxes may have died at about 25 locations across southern Queensland, including the Lockyer Valley, Sunshine Coast and Western Brisbane.
Marina under fire again after as many as 100,000 fish have been found dead in that lake. Colorway Newshouse Catherine Van joins us live in the studio tonight to tell us a little bit more about what's going on at the marina. Catherine?
Pat, that's almost all the fish in the lake. In fact, the Nevada Department of Wildlife tells me there's less than 25 fish still alive in the lake.
What was once home to millions of fish has turned into a watery grave, now taking the lives of more than 100,000 fish.
What we found is we have water with little oxygen in it, and we have water that has basically no fish in it as of this point.
Thousands of fish mysteriously turning up dead on the shoreline here after our recent deep freeze.
The carcasses of hundreds of striped bass still line the banks in the marsh of the Black Hall River in Old Lyme 2 weeks after a deep freeze. This is what neighbor Fred Chavois saw when he looked out of his window January 3rd.
We thought maybe there was something in the snow, fell in the water. I don't know.
But thousands.
Yeah, thousands. And the birds are all over them. But since I didn't know what killed them, I didn't want to eat any of them.
So what did snuff out a generation or two of stripers? We asked state environmental expert Dave Simpson.
It's cold shock.
Kia ora, good evening. More than 100 volunteers trekked for an hour to reach dozens of stranded whales today and worked all day trying to save them. The pod of 63 was stranded in hot, dry conditions at Farewell Spit. 21 more died and the rest, after initially being refloated, have just started to strand themselves again. Jane Luscombe reports.
As daybreak arrived at Farewell Spit, the sun's rays lit up a bleak scene. Dozens of pilot whales stranded and only a handful of people to help. There was no way they could save them. The task was simply too big.
There's 73 animals up there. I don't know how many are alive.
21 died, but 63 were back where they belonged. Their efforts, though, may have been for nothing. An hour ago, the whales began to strand again.
As we left it last night, there were 14 pilot whales in the area around Lover's Key, and 4 of those whales died. 2 were humanely euthanized and 2 died of natural causes. These 14 whales around Lover's Key, we have not completed the photo identification matching yet, so we don't know if any of these 14 individuals are related to the animals that stranded in the Everglades. So these could be 2 completely separate groups of whales mass stranding within a month of each other, and that would be rare.
Scientists are trying to solve the mystery of the dead birds tonight.
Hundreds of them died in the same place, same time in Burleson this morning. Channel 8's Jim Douglas has been looking into it.
The scene prompted a lot of calls from motorists. Dead starlings and grackles scattered on and around the I-35 South Service Road at Alsbury Boulevard.
The ones we found in the grass did not have any signs of trauma that we could see.
Burleson Animal Control picked up just over 200 dead birds.
Tonight, more pilot whales are found dead off the coast of southwest Florida. Today, boaters found the remains of 25 pilot whales on an island near Marco Island. They appeared to have been there for about 24 hours and were part of a pod first seen Sunday. The whales were discovered 2 days after the deaths of 8 pilot whales near Lover's Key. That's about 40 miles north. What killed them still remains a mystery.
The hundreds of dead fish began showing up earlier this week, and fish and wildlife officials think it may be something missing from the water.
Several clusters of dead, decomposing carp line this segment of the Kings River. The rotting fish leaving a strong, disgusting odor in the air. Fish and wildlife officials surveyed the area Wednesday evening.
What we think happened is the fish kind of got concentrated in this one area because of the low flows. And when you get this many fish in one small area, the dissolved oxygen in the water becomes an issue, and basically the fish suffocate.
Along a strip of Peru's northern coast, the dolphins were lying dead. More than 200 carcasses washed up on the shore. They were to be added to a toll which now counts 400 dolphins found dead since the beginning of the year. No one knows why. This is not the first time scientists find large groups of dolphins dead in Peru's coast. Last year, hundreds of them were found in the same area in northern Peru.
Instead of fresh air, joggers and cyclists using the Bishan Amokyo Park on Wednesday morning had to breathe in the stink of rotting fish, as hundreds of them were found belly up in the river and along the banks.
More than 20 fish farms along the East Johor Straits have reported incidents of fish dying just before the start of the Lunar New Year, and this has caused an estimated loss of more than $3 million. According to the Agri-Food and Veterinary Authority, this could be due to low levels of oxygen or a phenomenon known as the plankton bloom, caused by the hot weather and neap tide, which is when high tide is at its lowest level. Some of the farms claim to have spotted about 200 to 300 dying fishes.
Weeks have passed since Korea was first hit with a bird flu outbreak that has since led to the culling of millions of ducks and chickens. The total number of birds destroyed from this year's outbreak now stands at above 6.5 million.
The Keller family has about 1,800 beehives on dozens of different sites around Hancock County. But after this cold winter, they don't expect to find even half of them still alive.
They're dead. They're dead. They're dead.
Well, 25 years ago, if we had a 5% winter loss, that was a bad year. And now you're talking 50% winter loss. I'd be happy with that.
This duck die-off is unprecedented. Biologists who've been here for 35 years have never seen anything like this.
The Western New York region is bearing witness to a quiet but devastating ecological disaster. The harsh and seemingly endless winter has been the root cause of death for thousands of ducks from Rochester to the Niagara River.
This has never been documented in the past. So for as cold as people believe the winter has been, it in fact has been that cold because it's verified by the fact that this abundant wildlife population cannot survive this winter.
The climate is changing, and it's changing at an unprecedented rate from all the research that's been done.
It's a fish kill so massive that Citizens Lake hasn't seen something like this in decades. You can already see and smell the decay, and as temperatures start warming up, they say it's about to get a lot worse.
Bluegill, largemouth bass.
Over 9,000 pounds of fish suffocated underneath thick ice after this harsh winter.
In some cases, they froze to death because the cluster got too small. And in other cases, they starved to death.
Every single colony gone.
I've lost 20 out of 20, so it's 100% loss for me. It's the same story everywhere. They're losing 80–90% of their bees.
The last 2 weeks, we have had 6 dolphins strand. We had a couple manatee deaths, and then we had a humpback whale over the weekend.
And that's not all. Viewers sent us these new pictures of shark remains and sea turtles.
It was crazy just seeing a dead one.
Experts say the morbillivirus is contributing to the dolphin deaths. Since July of last year, 80 have washed up in northeast Florida. In that same time frame, 1,200 ended up dead from New York to the Sunshine State, which is way more than the 180 a year average.
From Chopper 2, you can see tens of thousands of dead fish in Belmar's Inlet near the marina, scores of them on land, and many floating or at the bottom of the Shark River. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, I haven't.
And
it was one of the worst ones he had mentioned that he had ever seen. Numbers were upwards to 1 million animals, certainly hundreds of thousands.
Dean Kane is a marine biologist with DNR. He spent Friday making sure the fish kill was a contained event.
Obviously lost a lot of menhaden.
Today, thousands upon thousands of dead anchovies turned up in the Santa Cruz Harbor, the latest marine phenomena in the Monterey Bay.
There were thousands of dead fish floating on the surface, but there's thousands upon thousands more at the bottom.
So this isn't the first time there's been a big anchovy die-off in the harbor. Last October, crews had to remove 20 tons of dead anchovies.
Wildlife officials are trying to figure out what killed hundreds of birds this week in Lancaster County. Some residents in the Leola area discovered the dead birds Monday morning in their yards. Most were young robins or sparrows.
I'm at Veterans Lake, where they're experiencing a massive fish kill. We're talking about thousands of dead fish pulled from the water yesterday, and thousands still remain.
Watch it, Scott.
Friday is day 2 for these Great Bend city workers removing truckloads of dead fish. And as each hour passes, the blue-green algae problem seems to get worse.
We've lost carp, catfish, bass, crappie, perch, you name it.
A sea lion has washed up on shore. It's alive, but barely. Disoriented and suffering repeated violent seizures, it's in agony. Sean Johnson is the center's director of veterinary science. He says he's seen hundreds of animals with similar symptoms. The suspected culprit, domoic acid, is a toxin released by a coastal algae bloom, and it's at the center of a widening lethal cycle. Small fish eat the toxic algae, then bigger animals like sea lions feed on the poisoned fish. It's not just sea lions. Otters, a federally protected species, are also dying from domoic acid poisoning. Large numbers of whales and dolphins are stranding on Southern California beaches. Brown pelicans that have ingested the toxin have literally dropped dead from the sky.
Residents and volunteers in northeastern New Zealand have been taking part in a major rescue effort to save a group of pilot whales that became stranded in Iowa Harbour in the Bay of Plenty. They managed to refloat and guide 21 whales out of the harbour, but officials say at least 35 whales did not survive.
This is Rotatai Beach that leads into Pahara, so it's all one beach really. This looks like rubber.
A marine mystery is unfolding along part of South Australia's Yorke Peninsula. It's after a pod of 7 sperm whales washed up dead on Parara Beach in an unusual mass stranding on Monday morning. The whales, which can weigh up to 50 tons, were found at low tide by residents about 93 miles northwest of Adelaide. They were said to be about 10 metres in length.
First time I've ever seen anything like this in the 20 years I've been here.
Devastating effects of an outbreak of red tide, as over 70 tons of west coast rock lobster have stranded themselves and died. It's affected about 200 kilometers of coastline near Cape Town, and the small coastal village of Elands Bay, home to generations of lobster fishermen, is at the epicenter.
Columbia River, dead fish all over the shore.
A new mystery tonight. Wildlife resource officers are trying to figure out why dozens of birds dropped dead out of the sky at the same time in Spring Hill. It was an eerie scene, as you can see here, with more than 50 birds on the road. Rachel Irby sent us this video. Wildlife officers bagged some birds and took samples, but they say they've never seen anything like this.
Pictures show some of the thousands of snow geese found dead in eastern Idaho.
There's no doubt that 2,000 birds died there. Many of them based on the mud that was around the birds. It pretty much was they came in for a landing and that was it.
Idaho's Department of Fish and Game says the geese were found in several wildlife refuge areas near Idaho Falls. The carcasses stretched for dozens of acres and were first noticed on Friday. Greg Lisinski says the birds must have picked up avian cholera somewhere south of Idaho.
So far, volunteers have found around 8,000 carcasses of the blue-footed seabird called the Cassin's auklet along the coast from British Columbia down into Northern California. Scientists estimate as many as 100,000 auklets, most of them young, have died.
The biggest outbreak of bird flu in America in 30 years is threatening egg production. Millions of birds will have to be killed, and the virus is spreading.
This is not the first outbreak of bird flu in the U.S., and it won't be the last. What is the distinction of this current wave?
We have had outbreaks of avian influenza, and thank you very much for having me on the program. We have had outbreaks of influenza in the United States, and the most notable one that we had was back in Pennsylvania in 83-84, where we lost 17 million birds with a cost of $60 million. And since that time, we've had smaller outbreaks, but this particular outbreak has affected many states and many types of birds across the United States. So it is an unprecedented outbreak in the United States of bird flu.
8 million birds have died in this wave. That's an incredible, to me, that's an incredible number.
చేపలు జలచరాలు కూడా విపరీతంగా చనిపోతున్నాయి. మనం చూస్తూనే ఉన్నాం. అయితే ఒకవైపు కృష్ణానదిలో నీరు నిండిపోవడంతో మరోవైపు కూడా చూసుకుంటే కనుక అంటే అటువైపు గొల్లపూడి పాతబస్తీ ఈ ప్రాంతం నుంచి వచ్చే నేరుగా మలమూత్రాలతో కూడుకున్న డ్రైనేజీ వాటర్ నీటి.
As we reported yesterday, the nation's largest egg-producing state, Iowa, has declared a state of emergency following a major outbreak of the avian flu. Millions of chickens and turkeys there and in Wisconsin and Minnesota have been killed to try to contain the disease.
Sunny side up could be going way up as the worst outbreak of avian influenza in U.S. history spreads across the Midwest. The deadly virus has surfaced in 15 states, killing 45 million chickens and turkeys.
Marinas are swamped. From Moose Lodge to Indian Island Golf Course, the Peconic River is choked with piles of smelly, decaying bunker fish. For the second time in as many weeks, a massive die-off.
Those planning a day of sun and sand in Carmarthenshire, Wales, may have to revise their plans. Thousands of jellyfish were found washed up on the area's Kevin Sheedan Beach. In the past weeks, there were only occasional sightings, but over the weekend, they arrived in masses.
At 3 o'clock, he came upon a dead sea lion pup, but kept walking. A few minutes later, he tripped upon the carcass of what appeared to be a huge elephant seal.
So many dead animals, it felt very tragic.
Then, a bit further down the beach, he found a dead dolphin.
Just so many, a variety of exotic animals dead like that, I think was just very peculiar.
Pacific Ocean temperatures off the beach here are 5 degrees higher than average and could top off at a record-breaking 70 degrees by the end of this month. The fear is there could be more to come.
Hundreds of thousands of dead fish and blue crabs washed ashore in one county in the east. Lower Neuse riverkeeper Travis Graves says dead menhaden and blue crabs have washed up at Planters Beach along the Neuse River in Craven County.
like black slugs or snails without shells, and there are literally thousands of these things lining Treasure Coast beaches right now. And what are you seeing out here today?
About 1 billion of them out here.
They're gooey, they're slimy, there's tens of thousands of them, and they're either dead or dying.
It's pretty disgusting.
They're called sea hares, and Martin County lifeguards have never seen this many wash up on shore all at once.
We have some veteran lifeguards that have been here almost 30 years that are saying that they haven't ever seen it before as well.
A dead humpback whale, one of 4 that washed up on the Central Coast in just the past week.
There could have been others that we haven't seen. And up in southeast Alaska, there's been 21 dead fin whale and humpback whales in the past month. So this seems like a really alarming number, all coming in at once.
As they collect thousands of dead fish, the question being asked is, how did they die? Nearly 50 tons of dead fish have been removed by residents at the Cajititlan Lake in Mexico.
Along the shoreline in Manzanita, they are hard to miss. Dozens of dead birds, the majority of them common murres. And it's not just here. The birds are washing ashore up and down the Oregon and Southwest Washington coast. The die-off started about 3 weeks ago.
I can't remember a time when it's been this bad.
Hi, I'm Ryan Brubaker. I'm 16 years old and go to Service High School, and I'm standing here in Jackaloff Creek, close to Seldovia. In this creek, every year, my family and I come up here and we fish for pink salmon. We've got a cabin pretty close to here, and if you look around me, there's not a lot of pink salmon this year that are going to be good to catch. But this year we have no snow and no snow melt, so the fish are coming up, being brought in by the tide, and they're getting up to here, and as soon as the tide comes out, there's no water for them to sit in, so they're just dying right here.
We have an interesting piece of video that really gives us just a better picture of the impact of red tide.
Now take a look at this. Glenn Miller shot this footage with a drone out at Packery Channel, and from this aerial perspective, you can see the hundreds of dead fish in the water there.
From Mexico all the way to Alaska, there has been a massive die-off of sea stars. The estimates are in the tens to hundreds of millions of sea stars that have died in the last couple of years. It's one of the largest mortality events associated with a disease that we've ever observed in the ocean.
Eddie Bauer has lived near this lake his entire life, and this is the first time he's ever seen it run dry. Today, there's nothing but a muddy mess and countless dead fish.
It's amazing how many people have come out to see the destruction. You know, like my wife, for instance, you know, she's holding her nose, can't even stand the smell.
Moreno says the drought is the main culprit, with less snow runoff ending up in the lake.
We have up to date 275 elephant carcasses that have been verified of the 356 that are reported in the northern part of Botswana.
It seemed they were even dying, very suddenly in some of the cases. The carcasses were animals that had fallen down while walking.
At this stage, it's difficult to really tell what could be the cause of the mortality. There's still a lot of infectious diseases and potentially other toxins that are being still investigated.
Василий Бакулин приехал на пасеку и обнаружил, большая часть пчел умерли, многие ослаблены. В Козеевке практически у каждого пчеловода погибли все семьи пчел. Чтобы выяснить, что стало причиной гибели насекомых, их отвезли на экспертизу. Но все надежды пчеловодов
wzięła tuż. Нашла деревья. Kambalarını görmüşse ceket tuş kaçamasın. No, oraya kırıvak mümkün. Bakayım oraya kırını yürü.
Там насчитали порядка 10. Здесь очень много. Вот посмотрите сами. Это красноголовая утка. Видите? Это вот свежие утки. Вот здесь, по-моему, чайка. Тоже крыло от чайки осталось. Здесь вороны.
свет. Посмотрите, какие страсти творятся. И приехали к брату в гости, а здесь в речке рыба подохла. Посмотрите, как жалко. Вся речка в этой рыбе.
What's that all about?
I don't know.
Why is there dead ducks everywhere?
I don't know. It's such a shame, isn't it?
Yeah, but this they're talking about dead animals everywhere. Like something's going on.
It's weird, man. I'm outside the hospital. There's some tree there, loads of birds in it. Look. There's literally loads of birds flying around. But on the floor, and they're literally falling out the tree as I'm speaking. Literally falling out the tree. They're everywhere.